All right, good morning. Today I am streaming to a massive audience of 0 people. But that is all right. I'm going to keep going and keep doing this. Because why not? All right, today is September 2nd. Coming back from a holiday. Yesterday, futures were only open until noon. I don't usually count that day in my key levels, but I'll get to that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. This is Pre-Market Wake Up. My name is Frank. My channel is called No More Paper, meaning no more paper trading. Get it? My community is also called No More Paper. Link is in the description to Discord. I don't sell anything. I never will. No memberships, no mentorships. Just join and trade. My goal is to become a profitable trader, and that's it. All right, moving on. At this moment, there's no big news coming out. There's no news releases planned pre-open. But the market is crashing quite heavily. Heavily. That's not a word. Heavily. Yeah, ever since the open last night. Price has been crashing quite heavily. It seemed like once we got through previous day's close, which is also now previous month's close right here. Once it got through there, looks like it came back up, rejected it again, and then strength just tanked. I wish I would have been up at 3 a.m., but I have to sleep like normal people. And ever since then, we're going down. I have no precursor for it because this is a brand new monthly close, previous month's close. But yeah, that's what happened MES last night. Just for a better view of it. You also see an uptick of volume starting around 3 a.m. as well here. That's not good. The only plus side is right now we are halted at the new pivot point for the month. Every month the pivot points change. Perhaps one time I'll go into how they change, how they're calculated. I don't remember right now, but it's actually kind of simple. And I do find that the market price often respects those levels. But we're stopped right there, and strength RSI seems to have bottomed out. I don't know if I'm 100% right, but as far as I know, RSI will get overextended to a certain point. And that usually means the price has extended too far at the moment and needs some recovery. There's a very good chance it's going to go lower. I don't see us recovering quite yet. But I don't know. I really don't know. All right. NASDAQ, probably same thing. The only difference is NASDAQ passed. No, there's no difference. Pretty much the same. You see the increase in volume after 3 a.m. I really don't know why that is. It could be because that's when the VIX opens. That is when the pre-market opens for a lot of stocks. Pretty sure. I mean, that would make sense. But you don't always see this increase in volume in the overnight, right at 3 a.m. But that can be construed as another reason why we might keep heading down today. All right, let's take a look at the Russell. Ouch. Very similar things with the Russell. We have 3 key levels right on top of each other here. We have previous month's close, which is also Friday's close. I don't count yesterday's close, which was at noon, I think, because yesterday futures traded for the morning because it was a holiday in the US. But I don't count those days. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if you do. But anyway, yeah, we have the close of Friday, the monthly close, and Friday's opening range high. But very similar to the ES and the NQ. The Russell took a dive at 3 a.m. I made a very foolish trade. That's not very foolish. I wish I would have looked at the VIX and the other markets. But I'll show you real quick in the ES what I did. As price got down to the current monthly low, I bought 4 contracts here because it looked to me like strength was rising, and slowly it was, as well as MACD was slowly recovering. But almost immediately after I got in, I saw in the price action that everything was being sold. Anytime there would be a little spike in the RSI, it would get sold and drop. But at that point I was already committed and I had my stop. I probably would have gotten out if it went back to even, but I had other things to do, and I lost. Anyway, where were we? The Russell. Yeah, same thing. Big losses. Looked like it barely stopped at the current month low, which the current month low is not really important yet because we're only 1 day into the month and it hasn't had a chance to build up much. In fact, it was just made, the current month. Depending on when I marked it, it could mean very little. I might end up in the future just removing current month low until we're 1 or 2 days into the month. But yeah, Russell keeps going down. I will take a look later, as usual, on what's going to happen today, what might happen today, what levels to look out for. Oh no, this is an NQ. Man, I feel dumb. But Russell, very similar. Keeps going down. All right. Look at the Dow. Just like everything else, couldn't hold above the close. 3 a.m. huge sell-off, which is continuing now. Did not take long to get through the low, the current month low, which again, not that important, but also a major area of support and resistance. Area of resistance right here, but I'll get into that when I go over for the day. What was I just thinking of? Oh, July's close. So when I change for the month to the new monthly close, which would be August's close, I remove July's close. But I think it's still important. I might consider leaving that on the charts. Maybe at least for the first week of the new month. I don't know. Let me see if I can find where it was, see if it's anywhere close. You know what, I don't think it is. Yeah, July's close. It's all the way down at, for the Dow, can that be right? $44,306, quite a ways away. All right, moving on to gold. So gold has been heading up as people flee the markets, looking for safe havens. That trend for gold really started on the 20th to the 22nd. But currently, after making a monthly high, which, yes, the month is only one overnight old, but that monthly high is still a major high, major new high. I don't know if it's an all-time high. No, it's not. At least not in futures. But price has rejected that so far. And now we're back down lower. Just bounced off the overnight low. All right, I'll talk more about gold later. Oil. What did oil do? Huh. In the overnight, oil rose sharply, Same thing, starting around 3 a.m. But has just fallen back towards Friday's opening range high. I'm pretty sure that's Friday's opening range high. You know what? That might be yesterday's. Yeah, it is. But still, price is respecting it. So I'm going to keep it for now. This might be a decent trade right here. RSI is very overextended. I wonder if something happened. Yeah, I don't know. All right, let's move on to news and what's going on today, what's coming up. Today we have PMI. At 10 a.m. And then later on in the day, U.S. President is having a speech around 2 Eastern Standard Time, 1400. So what is PMI? I thought it might be good just to do a quick overview on what it is, what it means. So PMI is released by ISM, which stands for Institute for Supply Management. I don't know who funds them. I don't know how they collect their data, but there are 3 major things that are important in it. So they release demand, output, and employment, which can be seen. This is FX Street, by the way. I think they have the best economic calendar around. But you have employment, new orders, and then output. Just bare bones, how much was created. I think today this could have an effect on price if this could bring us back, have a rebound in the equities, maybe if everything's real good, because that would maybe signal to the Fed that I don't even know. I didn't look it up. I should have. I don't know if the Fed even pays attention to PMI. Maybe they do. Maybe traders do. But a good report would mean employment's good, inflation's not that bad, and that a cut isn't a terrible idea. As far as the speech later on today, I don't know. I don't know what he's going to talk about. Does anyone really know? I doubt it will have a huge impact on the market. Might cause some volatility, but I don't think it'll cause a rebound in price or a V or anything like that. But I don't know. You never know. That's why I usually block out times around this area. So for today, I'm not going to trade from 9:40 to around 10:15, which is around PMI, and I won't trade from 1:45, maybe for the rest of the day, but probably it depends. If volatility slows down or the market doesn't care at all for the speech, maybe 2 210, 215. Yeah, I don't know. All right, in other news, let's see if I can show that. No, it didn't update. I got to figure out how to do that, no BS. How to show every page I look at in the window, but it just keeps showing the news. But anyway, the Fed Watch tool, if you don't know, it's a gauge of how likely traders think that a rate cut is incoming in September, and it's up again. It's up to 91.8. I forget what it was last time. I think it was 87.3 or something like that. So despite this being up, the market's still crashing pretty hard right now. Maybe that would bring us around? I don't know. Also, this week, earnings. Not much tonight, but tomorrow morning there's a couple things. Dollar Tree, Macy's, Campbell's. I don't think they'll have a huge effect on the market, but just look out for them. Know that they're going to release in the morning. If you see volume coming in, that's probably why. All right. Now we're going to move on to key levels for the day and what might happen or might not. So let's start with the ES, as always. Oh, I didn't look at the VIX overnight. Let's do that first. Another large failure of mine was not looking at the VIX this morning before I placed that trade. So the VIX has just been rocketing upwards ever since it opened. It gapped up and just kept going higher. Even now, it's just going up and up. I don't know how much that the VIX respects key levels. Like here you can see this general area here. Or maybe August 1st, maybe once we reach there it might slow down. I don't know. I don't know much about it. All I know is when the VIX is up, the market's usually down. Equities. Dollar's been up too. I did look into some reasons why that is. But as always, don't trust news sources 100%. Everything's an opinion in markets. And explanations usually come after the movements. So that means they never knew. And they still might not. But the only reason the dollar's up is because everything else is so weak. That's what I saw. Something to that effect. In Japan, their currency's down. Same thing with the UK. Just means our debt's really bad, but theirs is even worse. So not a lot of confidence in their currency. Also, another reason is dollar can be seen as a safe haven, which is kind of good for America, meaning that people still think that the dollar is safe, somewhat safe. All right, let's move on to what the heck's going to happen today. As if I know. All right, key levels to look out for in ES. right now we are selling off like crazy. But keep a lookout for the main pivot point here at around 64.11. In that general area. TradingView has a real nice indicator. Just keep the default settings. I changed a couple things, but just plots the pivot points for you. There's a chance price will come back up here, and if it remains below, if indicators show that it wants to remain below, it might be a good short off of that pivot point. If we do start heading back up, a major area, stopping area of resistance would be Friday's close, which is 64.73 area. If we continue to head down, it's kind of wide open at this point. We have last month's pivot point, which is at 63.56. Right around here. We also have, is that the 50 SMA? So I plot, on my 5-minute charts, I plot the 50 SMA from the daily chart, because that often acts as a major area of resistance and support. Price tends to dance around it quite a bit, but it does, I consider it a key level. Is that the 50 SMA? Yes, it is, on a daily time frame. So that could get in the way of going lower, but that's also very close to last month's pivot point. Other than that, there's not much. So we might make it down there. All right, NASDAQ, what's going on? Bet you it's very similar. So the pivot point in the NASDAQ is much further lower. And I wouldn't trust current month low, which is now moot, because current month low is now 23,060. So I would ignore this as a major area. It might be an area, slight area of resistance if we come back up towards it, especially because the ES does have a pivot point in that general area. So you might see price come back up here. Good place for pullback trade to go lower. If we break through there and go higher, just like the ES, Friday's close is going to be a very important area. If we do fall, keep falling lower, we have previous month's low, and the S1 pivot area at 22,810, which previous month's low is not far at 22,788. So I could see us getting down there. Let's take a look at the daily, the NQ. Maybe we might be held up around the 22nd slow, or maybe the 20th slow. Might hold up there for a little bit. Yeah, not looking good. But also a lot of times this happens. You'll get a V somewhere, just like on the 20th here. You often see it. That doesn't mean buy up every time price slows down. Look for confirmation, however you choose to do that. All right, moving on to the Russell. Let's take a look. So the Russell does have this major resistance area right here, which if we look at a daily Russell, we can see where it was formed way back on the 13th. It was the high, between the high and the close of the 13th. So look for a bounce off there. If there is any news coming out that looks good for a rate cut, obviously the Russell will be the first to react. So that might be a good sign. That might be a leading indicator for the rest of the equities. If you see the Russell crashing or recovering, and at the same time you see the ES here halting around, I don't know, 50 SMA or whatever. If there's other confirmation in RSI or MACD, might be a good spot to buy. Just saying, hypothetical. No, it'd be a good spot to sell. No, it'd be a good, never mind. If we do head lower, might bounce off of this resistance area. Further up again, Friday's close is a major key area. If we do bounce back up. I don't know if I would buy. Maybe if the news is very positive, I might do a short-term trade until I probably wouldn't even hold past Friday's low. I'd probably cover before there. Price action speaks for itself. Everything is being sold. Right there you see a support area that just was formed. This indicator is great. Just to show you real quick what it is. It's called Volume Support Resistance Zones version 2 by Tommy F 1001. It's good. I just went with the default settings and it automatically finds the areas that your eye would find anyway. Or maybe not. I don't often trade directly on them unless there's lots of strength or it coincides with one of my trigger lines, one of my key levels. So it's more of a confirmation tool. But if we go lower in the Russell, let's take a look at the daily. We do have a monthly pivot point down here as a stopping area at 2305. Other than that, price might halt back at the high of day for the 15th or the 19th. If we got the momentum to go down, we're going down. I'm just curious to see how the VIX changed since that support formed. Not too much different. I don't know if you have any tips on how to read the VIX better. I might not be using it right. Let me know. I really don't know too much about it except it's a volatility indicator for the S&P. All right, let's move on to, where were we? The Dow. Let's move on to the Dow. The Dow also just built that support area on top of a previous resistance area. If we do start going up, for the Dow it does seem like 45,294, that general area here, might halt there for a little bit. That is no longer the current month low. I will probably change that at some point. I might wait till tomorrow. Above that we have, it did seem like Friday's low is more important for the Dow, but very much important is Friday's close, which is where this entire sell-off started around 3 a.m. So if we go higher, look out for those levels. If we happen to fall lower, we have the main pivot point for this month at 44,969. It's not too far away. Also, it's not shown on my 5-minute chart, but right below this resistance area, there is last month's R1 pivot point at 45,088. All right, let's take a look at gold. Gold rallied higher quite a bit overnight. Was not able to sustain it that long. It happened right at 9 o'clock. Oops, hold on. The bull run started right at 9 o'clock. Also with an increase in volume. Not really sure why, but my money is on that the high of 3578.4 is important. So looking at it, the open, if we head higher, we have a resistance area right around 3562. Not extremely important. More important would be the current month high at 3578.4. If we head lower, we've got August high at 3533 among a huge area of resistance. That might be an error. I don't know. Because that shows on my daily chart too. For gold. So I have two versions of that indicator, one on the daily chart and one on the 5-minute. And because they're global, I have them globally linked, so my key levels show on both charts. It shows the daily resistance and support levels on the 5-minute, but it doesn't work the other way. It doesn't show, at least I don't think so. It doesn't show the 5-minute on the daily. I might have turned that off. I don't remember. But it's on my list of things to do, is to look into the indicator and see how these areas are calculated. See if I can figure out how they did it, how he did it, or she. So I could see if things are in error or whatever. So as I was saying, if gold goes down, I mean, we got August close, Friday's close, Friday's high. The overnight low. Is that the overnight low? No. So that was Friday's low. I don't know why I'm counting that as current month low. That's not right. I gotta change that. Should be 3506. So I mentioned before, I know that there are indicators that mark all these spots for you, but I choose to plot them myself, so I make sure I take notice of these levels. If I just had TradingView do it automatically through an indicator, I might not make myself look at these levels every day and pay attention to them. There's drawbacks to relying on automation too much. I guess you could say the same thing about my resistance areas here, but I like that indicator. If gold goes up, like I said, you have the overnight high here, which also happened to be, I think, it's not an all-time new high, but it was pretty close to an all-time new high. All right, moving on to oil. Oil also saw a large increase overnight. There's lots of things going on right now with India buying Russia oil, and I'm sure the US is trying to flood the market with cheap oil to try to convince India not to buy Russian oil. That's my take on it, I think. I didn't read much on it, but I'm probably going to stay away from oil right now, unless oil happens to slow down volatility, and if it V's somewhere near a major level, such as down here at previous month's low, or I don't know where else. maybe I'll just stay away from oil. I would recommend that. Oh, this would have been an excellent trade here. Let me show you. But how could you know where it would stop exactly? Basically cut right through. Excuse me, I can't stop yawning. Right through yesterday's opening range high. Again, this isn't Friday's opening range high, it's yesterday's. Not really that important. But it dove right through it. Kind of like stopped on a dime right there. That was Friday's high. I guess you could have seen it in the RSI. But I've seen RSI whiplash often. Yeah, I don't know. All right. Let's take one more look at the VIX before. Well, still heading down a bit. Same thing with the dollar. Still heading down a little. And then the ES. I trade the MES. Not quite a V, but it does seem to be holding for now. This area where it held, or is holding, seems kind of random. Yeah, I don't know. But also a support area is being formed. I would assume that the indicator uses some type of calculation of volume. Maybe a quick increase of buyers or sellers in an opposite proportion to buyers or sellers. I don't really know. But RSI does seem to be coming back up. We'll see what happens. We got 10 minutes still open. Before the open, I'd like to take a look at past summers, just to see what it looks like. I've noticed, I don't know how far back it goes, but it seems like often in the summertime, that would be Northern Hemisphere summer, the market enters a slog, so to speak. Other people have noticed it too. It's hard to know when it's going to start, when it's going to end, but you can actually look back and see that it really is a thing. Summer being used loosely, because sometimes it ends in the fall or begins in the spring. So I think it'd be neat to take a quick look at past occurrences, see when they started roughly and where they ended. I'm going to be looking at a SPY chart on the daily. And let's first take a look at let's take a look back first, and then we'll look at the current summer slog, if you can even call it that, because we're still trending upwards. Is that really? All right, let's go back to 2024. All right, in this area you have, looks like in 2024 it started around July 16th. It was pretty abrupt. I don't remember if there was any news event then that did it, but as you can see, it started right around there. And really didn't end I'd say until October 3rd, when it came back to test that area. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit more. And rejected it and went higher again. It came back a little bit, but not quite to that same area. I can't really place what was happening here. Oh, this climb is U.S. election. I do remember that. And it's been topsy-turvy since then. I would argue that in the spring there was a much needed correction, if you can call it that. But yeah, so just last year we had 715 to October 3rd, basically. Broke out, started to break out towards the end of September, but didn't really start moving again until later. All right, let's keep going, see what else we got. Going back to 23. I do remember 23. I remember it vividly. That's probably the cleanest summer slog you can have. End of July this time. I guess that kind of makes sense, because a lot of people go on vacation at the end of summer when it's not stinking hot. But we have here I would say it started the end of July 2023. I still remember the end of October. I wasn't serious enough at that point to put major money on it. I was still learning. But afterwards, I saw the signs. I think this is when I forget what happened exactly, but there was a news event that made it pretty obvious that things were going to be picking up since then. As you can see, price slowed down a little bit at the point where it fell in the beginning or the end of July. But once it got past that, it kept going and going and going. Basically had a 4-month run before a little pullback and then a larger run all the way to the next summer. You can see kind of the patterns here. Let's look at 22. Things get a little hairy around COVID because, well, I don't really need to explain. But in 22 was kind of a mess. But you did have a sharp fall towards the end of August. And really the market didn't recover past that point anyway for a long time. You could argue, again, October, I'm starting to see a pattern. Right now we're looking at middle of July to end of July, or beginning of August as the start, and October as the end. Although this year, we'll take a look at that in a little bit. I'll look at a couple more examples and we'll look back there. The market's about to open any minute right now. I'm not trading anywhere near the open today. I usually wait 10 minutes anyway, but because news coming out at 10, I don't want to trade until after 10. But I will take a look at what happened in the open in a little bit. But anyway, yeah, it does. October 13th, we had a, I don't remember the news that came out that day, but as you can see, we had a sharp increase. It still took a long time to recover past this point. Didn't really occur until the following year. Basically June the following year. Just in time for the next summer slog. But a lot of things were going on then with COVID. Well, recovering from COVID. But let's take a look at the summer of 22. Again, here we are. This time didn't happen until the beginning of September. So you might see some parallels with today. I don't know. Again, it's very loosely defined, this whole summer slog. It might just disappear. It might have been something that happened for 4 or 5 years and that's it. I don't know how far back I traced it. But again, in 21, you had it start September, end in October. Broke back out at the end of October. Let's take a look at 20. 20, you had a summer slog start in, again, the beginning of September. Started to try and do a breakout towards the end of September, but didn't really get there till the end of October, and didn't break back above until November. Let's look at 19. This was COVID right here. But as you can see, even during the COVID recovery, we had a summer slog. 2019 looks to me like it kind of started end of July. October 3rd started coming back up, broke back out around, as you can see here, from, I don't know how easy you can see that, from 10:28 to 10:31. It was working on breaking above that point, and since then it was on its way up until COVID. I wasn't trading at this time. I was still wandering, we'll say. Just take a quick look at the open. Red immediately at the open. Let's take a look at the VIX. VIX is back up. All right. Back to Summer slogs, 2019. Let's take a look at 2018. That might be where I stopped looking because it seems like 2018 was a bit funny. It didn't start till October. It didn't start coming out of it till Christmas, which is strange. Well, it's not strange because often we do have a Christmas surge. That'd be a topic for another day. Let's check 2017. 2017. Yeah, really didn't. Maybe you can argue beginning of June to the beginning of July. It does seem like things slowed down a bit. Let's take a look at it in a different context. Different ratios. Yeah, hard to tell if it was much of a thing in 2017. Let's look at 2016. Pretty clear in 2016. Again, beginning of September till November, beginning of November. Pretty clear there. Again, a test of the area here. I'll show you right here. Price came back to test. Maybe something I should look out for this year once we do come back to break out. Let's go back one more year and then go look at modern day. 2015. Oh, I forget what this was. But yeah, beginning of, or mid-August. Really didn't recover till the following year. So there is a small chance that some of these so-called summer slogs have a chance of extending for a long time. Really quite stagnant back then. I guess inflation wasn't such a huge problem. Let's just take a look, see if there is for 2014. Not really. Yeah, maybe. So you could argue it started September 18th, lasted until mid-November, or mid-October, broke back out beginning of November. Maybe you can make a case for that. But let's take a look at today. See the summer slog. If it started already. Man, that really highlights how far we went down in the beginning of the year. How scared the market was of tariffs. That is a huge gap down for an open. You could argue the summer slog starts right now. It often started in the beginning of September. Can't really make an argument for end of July. You could make an argument for mid-August it started. But I'd say it could be starting right now. But anyway, give it more time. I'll come back and revisit this subject later. Until then, that's all I have for today. If you joined in, thank you. I doubt there's anyone here, but that doesn't matter to me. I will be here tomorrow morning, 8:30. Again, my channel is No More Paper. My name's Frank. Discord community link is in the description. Don't sell anything. The biggest frustration for me when I started trading is money grubbers everywhere. And they're still there, but I know better. I never really paid anyone for a mentorship, or I was a membership of one small thing, but it wasn't like some of these memberships I see that are over $100 a month, some of them, or these courses. There's no secret to trading. In fact, there is. There is a secret to trading, to becoming a successful trader. It's hard work. There's no secret knowledge. That does not exist. Anyway, have a good day, good trading. Goodbye.